up your and she'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces, nigga. Play with me, bro. Don't play with me, bro. Don't play with mine, bro. Don't play with mine. Just don't play with mine.
I remember how you and Wallow would cry. You and Wallow would cry. Oh, my son. Oh, my son got killed. Oh, you would cry. Man, you talking about snitching. You goddamn right I'm a law-abiding citizen.
I got family. I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man?
Charleston White made a name for himself by running on shock value and non-stop disrespect. But this time, he picked the wrong fight. Instead of keeping it playful, he zeroed in on T.I.'s son, King Harris, and crossed a line nobody thought he'd touch.
To say about my son, what some grown man had to say about my son, man. Somebody please, just pull me up to speed, man. Just pull me up to speed. How some grown man had some shit to say about my son. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. What fuck ass grown is wasted his whole life doing absolutely nothing. Got something to say about my son at the beginning of his adult.
Even his most loyal supporters couldn't defend that move. For years, Charleston White's been firing off shots at King Harris, even going so far as to twist Trayvon Martin's name into sick threats that left people outraged. Coming after a man's child is a line you just don't cross. That's when T.I. finally stepped up, not just as a rapper, but as a father ready to defend his son at all costs. Charleston thought he could treat it like any other rant, clowning King as a nobody just to stir the pot and grab clicks. But this time, he miscalculated badly. The streets say his anger comes from watching King rack up respect and attention that Charleston never touched, even in his so-called prime. At 48, with his platform shrinking and legal issues piling up, the jealousy is spilling over. Instead of owning up, he doubled down, snapping, "I'm a nobody, your son a nobody." But now the guy who bragged about fearing no man is reportedly too nervous to even log on. It's like he suddenly realized he pushed things into dangerous waters. And Tip didn't sugarcoat it either. He called Charleston flat out miserable for dragging kids into beef just to keep his name alive. The contrast couldn't be clearer.
I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man? Don't play with my child.
At just 20, King already has respect, opportunities, and a family that stands 10 toes behind him, while Charleston's track record is littered with arrests, snitching on his own circle, and embarrassing stunts like pepper spraying cats or getting jumped at events. T.I. ripped his so-called legacy to shreds, calling it exactly what it is, a circus act. And the sting cuts deep, because King represents everything Charleston will never be. Young, gifted, loved, and protected by a family that rides hard for him. Meanwhile, Charleston keeps targeting successful black families just to keep his own name in circulation. But the sad reality is, his entire world is crumbling around him. T.I. didn't mince words either. "I'll put my foot so far up yours you'll floss with my shoelaces. Don't play with me. Bro, play with my child. That's it." No jokes, no passes, no second chances. For months Tip held back, but when he finally broke his silence, the warning was ice cold. And the truth is, Charleston's rants don't just look like jealousy anymore. They sound like the breakdown of a man spiraling. That quick buzz he had in 2023 already feels like ancient history, replaced with courtroom dates and public breakdowns. In October 2024, he was arrested in Tarrant County, Texas, facing charges of animal cruelty and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Reports even claimed he pepper sprayed a cat, something so outrageous it shocked even his own followers.
Then he going to jail again. He ain't grew up tough like his dad.
And when he was held without bond, it proved one thing loud and clear. The authorities are finally done treating his antics like a joke. Then February 2025 rolled around, and the cycle repeated itself. Another arrest, this time on assault charges. He was back out after a few days, but the pattern couldn't be louder: repeat offenses, reckless stunts, and zero signs of growth. Meanwhile, T.I. doubled down, making it clear that nobody is going to use his son as a prop for clout. Sources close to Tip say he is fully prepared to protect his family by any means necessary. And when you stack Charleston's messy history, snitching on friends, non-stop arrests, ugly fights. The irony smacks you in the face. A man drowning in betrayal and legal drama really thinks he has a right to judge King Harris? That's hypocrisy at its peak. Charleston's backstory explains how twisted his path really is. Born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1977, his early life was nothing but chaos. At 14, he took part in a robbery that ended with a man losing his life, sending him to juvenile detention for 7 years. While inside, he even lost his right eye in an accident, a scar he carried forever. Growing up without a father only poured fuel on the fire, feeding the anger that shaped who he became. But instead of turning that pain into growth, Charleston flipped it into a loud, bitter persona. He didn't rise on talent, credibility, or real community work. He built his name on shock value, mocking the dead like DMX and George Floyd just to grab attention. His constant shots at young men like King Harris aren't random. They're rooted in wounds that never healed. Charleston himself has admitted he grew up feeling unloved and unwanted. Now he lashes out at successful young black men who live with the respect, love.
Boy, who did what? Who, man? We was about to whoop when you come back down here from telling. Yo, I can see you had a soft
And stability he never had. Watching King step into adulthood with confidence eats Charleston alive because it's a life he never had. That's why he refuses to let King breathe in peace. This feud didn't come from strategy. It came straight out of desperation. A fading man clinging to shock tactics just to squeeze out relevance. By late 2022, Charleston's buzz was already slipping. His online momentum was drying up, and he knew it. So, he went hunting for a bigger target and made the worst mistake of his career, aiming at T.I.'s family. That was a line you don't cross. On October 8th, 2022, Charleston let loose one of his trademark unhinged rants, and it backfired instantly. He didn't just go after King Harris. He dragged Boosie Badaz's son, Tyrell, into the mess too.
This is they call the laws, and they came. He older.
And from that moment, the saga spun way beyond his control. Both young men had brushes with the law, but it was King's September 2022 arrest that gave Charleston the opening he pounced on like a starving predator. Instead of offering the guidance he always pretends to preach, Charleston went straight for the gutter. He mocked King's looks, laughed at his future, and predicted his downfall with twisted excitement. That wasn't tough love, it was straight bullying, and it exposed exactly what drives him. King Harris, though, wasn't about to sit silent. On October 9th, just one day after Charleston's rant, he hopped on Instagram Live and fired back. But he didn't just throw insults, he calmly exposed him. He called Charleston a snitch, a coward, and a clout chaser who preys on young men. To make it sting was, he aired out Charleston's own history of working with law enforcement and bragging about it. At only 18, King showed more composure than a man twice his age, and that humiliation hit Charleston harder than any insult. Instead of retreating, Charleston spiraled out of control. On October 10th, 2022, he doubled down with darker threats, dragging Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman's names into the mess. That was a moment he crossed into dangerous territory, weaponizing one of the most painful tragedies in modern black history just to score clicks. Fans were disgusted, calling it the final straw. The tough guy mask slipped, and people saw the truth, a bitter man using tragedy against a teenager. And Charleston didn't stop at reckless talk. He bragged about phoning Atlanta police and even reaching out to Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis, trying to get King Harris locked up. For a man who claims to help the youth, nothing exposed him more than watching him eagerly push a teenager toward the system. It confirmed what critics have been saying all along. Charleston doesn't guide young men. He tries to destroy them. And when T.I. heard those threats, his patience finally ran out. On October 10th, 2022, T.I. clapped back with fire, making it clear Charleston had crossed a line that could never be erased. This wasn't rap beef. This wasn't clout chasing. This was a father stepping into battle to defend his child with raw, unstoppable energy. At the time, Tip was busy with comedy shows and business ventures outside of music. But the second Charleston put King's safety on the line, he flipped back into warrior mode, telling the world he'd risk his freedom, his name, even his legacy to protect his son.
T.I. and Charleston White are back in the news. Seems like they're setting up a boxing match between each other. Guess T.I. didn't like what Charleston White had to say about his son King.
That's a difference. T.I. has everything to lose, while Charleston has nothing but a loud mouth and a desperate need for attention. After the threats, a phone call was even set up on October 10th to calm things down. But Charleston fumbled the chance. Instead of de-escalating, he bragged that the call failed and twisted it into more drama. Then came his most clownish stunt yet, challenging T.I. to a celebrity boxing match. He demanded Steve Harvey as a referee and joked T.I. should wear an eye patch during the fight. Imagine that, a man who threatened a child trying to turn it into a circus act for pay-per-view clout. That move revealed everything about Charleston's twisted mindset. To him, it was all entertainment. To Tip, it was strictly about protecting his family. When the boxing gag didn't land, Charleston reached for an old, tired angle, accusing T.I. of being a federal informant because of his 2007 Crime Stoppers campaign after his gun case. But the hypocrisy was deafening. Charleston himself had bragged about testifying against co-defendants and working with police when he was younger. Everything he accused T.I. of, he had done far worse. By November 2022, T.I. had already answered the noise through music. He jumped on Juicy Fruit's track Step In, and fans instantly clocked it as a slick diss aimed at Charleston White. The bars cut deep but stayed polished, dismantling Charleston's credibility without ever stooping to the gutter. And the irony? Charleston completely missed the point. He actually praised the record and begged to be on the remix. That's how thirsty he was for validation. Even being dissed by a superstar felt like a win to him. That's Charleston's cycle. Humiliation doesn't humble him. It fuels him. Every clapback, every insult, he flips into content like it's oxygen. Without attention, Charleston is nothing. That's why he keeps circling back to King Harris, waiting for any stumble, any mistake, just so he can swoop in and attack. Then, when the backlash comes, he flips the script and plays a victim. His whole playbook is predictable: provoke, mock, then cry for sympathy. And his obsession with King didn't burn out in 2022. It kept coming back, lining up with King's life changes and struggles. Each time King hit the headlines, Charleston moved like a vulture, waiting to pounce with another wave of insults just to stay relevant. That's a disturbing part. He waits for weakness. Whenever King shows vulnerability, Charleston turns it into ammo. For a man who constantly claims he uplifts the youth, his actions prove the opposite. His not mentoring, his hunting. Peel back the layers and it's clear this is bigger than King alone. Charleston's real fixation is tearing down successful black families. He's admitted himself he grew up unloved, unwanted, rejected. No father figure, no stability, no pride to lean on. Those scars never healed. They hardened into bitterness. So when he sees T.I. giving his kids the love and guidance he never had, it cuts him to the core. That's why King is his favorite target. King represents everything Charleston never reached: youth, love, opportunity, and a future too bright for him to touch. Instead of facing his trauma, Charleston projects it, dragging others into his misery. That's why he could threaten a teenager 1 minute and then flip it into a circus boxing challenge the next. To him, nothing is sacred. Everything is content, even a child's safety. Meanwhile, T.I. showed the opposite energy every time. While Charleston chased chaos or clicks, Tip stood firm like a father protecting his legacy. That's why the public rallied behind him. The streets respect real fatherhood, not clout chasing dressed up as truth. Charleston's attacks just keep flipping to stretch his fame a little longer. 1 week he mocks King's looks. The next he calls T.I. an informant. Then he threatens lawsuits. It's a merry-go-round of nonsense designed to keep his name buzzing. But the harder he tries, the more obvious it gets. He's not fearless, he's desperate. Even his own supporters cringe when he crosses lines no entertainer should. His comments about Trayvon Martin proved it. There are no limits to his recklessness. And once you cross into that kind of territory, there's no walking it back. That's why Charleston's online presence feels shaky. Every live stream looks like another meltdown waiting to explode. Meanwhile, King Harris has never folded. He keeps pushing forward, carving his own lane despite the constant shots. When he clapped back in 2022, it wasn't just offense. It was a statement. He refused to let trolls define him and expose Charleston's immaturity for the whole world to see. Think about it. A teenager handling pressure with composure while a grown man unravels in public. That says everything. King's got family, opportunity, and a future wide open ahead of him. Charleston's got controversy, mugshots, and regret. The irony cuts deep. He calls himself an activist guiding youth. But how can you mentor kids when you publicly attack them, try to get them locked up, and even threaten their lives? His record, violence, animal cruelty charges, endless legal trouble, shows one thing. He never grew past chaos. Instead of healing, Charleston monetised dysfunction, turning his own spiral into entertainment. But now, the world sees it clearly. His story doesn't look like leadership. It looks like wasted potential. This feud laid everything bare. On one side, T.I., a father and provider, ready to risk everything to protect his son. On the other side, Charleston White, a provocateur clinging to attention by dragging kids into his storm. The contrast couldn't be sharper, and that's exactly why the people ride with Tip. You don't have to bump his music to get it. A father's duty to protect his family outweighs the antics of a man who's already lost everything that truly matters. Charleston thought targeting King Harris would spark another viral run, but all he did was expose the fragility of his own platform. T.I.'s warning was simple: play with my child and face consequences. That's a message every parent understands. When family is attacked, all bets are off. Charleston learned that lesson the hard way. The scars from this feud will outlast any rant, any live stream, or any stunt. Because when you strip it down, Charleston's story is wasted opportunities and chosen chaos. T.I.'s story is fatherhood, loyalty, and standing firm for his blood. And King Harris? His journey is just beginning, marked by resilience, maturity, and a strength that proves no troll can dim his light. That shine is untouchable. And that's it, fam. If you rock with this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, drop your thoughts and comments, and share this video.